everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Right now it's just Michael Moore 218. Still haven't come up with a name. Thanks for coming back. This is going to be my pickups from week 5/5, 2021, April 5th. This is later on in the week. It's Friday morning now. This is just going to be my quick picks of what I picked up, a little review, what I liked, what I didn't like. I'll save like maybe my top 2 favorites for the end. But let's get into it. So we got right here, Batman 108. This was the first appearance of Miracle Molly. It was a great issue. I liked Molly. I'm not sure if she's going to be a bad guy or a villain or something in between. It kind of feels like a villain, like she's got the upper hand on Batman. And she wasn't really in future state, which that's going to be like, you know, what we're going to get in the next month or so. And all this is leading up to that. I did like the origin story of Peacemaker. I'm not sure if that's key, if that counts as a key. I know it was his origin story, how he becomes Peacemaker. I know we did get 2 other first appearances, like smaller, low-budget people that work for Miracle Molly. There could be something bigger later on that no one's mentioned. But overall, it was a really good read. Her little spiel, everybody makes fun of, that I've seen, I actually liked it. It plays something close to my home because I've worked dead-end jobs forever, and that's kind of going to be my whole life. So, I mean, it held something in my heart. I liked her as a character. I think she's going to last. That was Batman 108. Next, we have Manbat versus Batman. This is issue number 4 in the series, and I'm really loving the series. I've always liked Man-Bat. I've always thought he was one of the more underrated Batman villains. And I don't even know if I consider him a villain, but he's always pegged as one. He's kind of more like Deadpool or Venom. He's one of those anti-heroes that doesn't, because he's not robbing banks and killing people. I mean, he does occasionally loses control. It's more like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde version. But I like what they got going with him. I like what they're doing with Scarecrow, how it's leading into future state Scarecrow that we're seeing now currently, because it's supposed to be a couple weeks before Batman. If you read the first issue, it kind of explains that. But overall, it was a really good read. You know, Scarecrow just messing with the Man-Bat. Batman, you know, during the investigation trying to find Man-Bat, you know, he kind of gets in there. There is I would say, a key appearance in this one, and this is one of those kind of like weird keys, but it's the first time a character, but it's a new version of that character, but it's basically Man-Bat, and he basically turns into King Man-Bat. And it's like in more evolved form, and the reason it could be a key is if it sticks. If it's something that, you know, Man-Bat stays and forever, we're going to see this King Man-Bat, which is over here, you know, more ferocious version of Man-Bat. So, I mean, I haven't seen anybody talk about that online. So, I mean, it was kind of nice to get that at the end, like, oh, King Man-Bat. You know, hey, why not? We got a whole bunch of kings and queens. All right, next up, we got the next Batman, Second Son. This is the second issue, I think, out of 4. It was a good read. It's still setting up how Jace becomes the next Batman, which we saw in Future State. It's setting up more of like what he was doing before he got there. This one's still going into the whole, you know, Nightwing, which is currently, you know, pretty much the main character right now, because it focuses on, you know, and I'm drawing a blank at his name, Tim or Tom or... but Nightwing's character is Jace's brother, and he's the one we know. Jace is the one that's been missing out of comics for a long time, and he just kind of reappeared, so we're kind of learning what he did. It sounded like he was in the army or a mercenary or something like that, and then he stopped doing that. His brother has this whole thing, like he's some kind of drug user or something like that, and he's against him. I'm not liking that part of the story. Especially because you're talking about a hero that's based on like detective work and stuff like that, and all of a sudden he's just pegging his brother on, you know, on unspeculated claims, like, oh, you're this drug user, but there's no evidence. I mean, they haven't shown any of that in the comic. I read all the Future State, Next Batman stuff and this, And everything they just showed Jace being a good guy. I mean, he's moody. He doesn't know where he fits in the family. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the money. He is trying to do his own, like, year one Batman where he's running around in kind of a low budget suit. If you're reading this just for Jace, I had I've heard a lot of people talk about that. Oh, the next Batman's not even in this comic. It's still setting up his origin on how he doesn't even have the suit at this time. It's leading up how he's going to get his own suit and how he gets in the suit and becomes the next Batman. We haven't got there yet. I think that's going to be the 4th issue of this series, is going to be like the reveal on how he got that bat suit, because it's not like you can just build Batman's bat suit with no money. But overall, it was a good read. It was more just read than action. Next up, we got Heroes Reborn. This is the Blade Bagley, I think, villain cover. I really wasn't going to get Heroes Reborn. For one, I'm not a big Marvel fan right now. I've kind of stayed away from Marvel, but recently I have been picking up certain comics. I picked up Silk #1, which I regretted. I picked up Beta Ray, and I'm liking that. I'm into the 2nd issue on that. And I picked up Alien and some other titles from Star Wars, which we'll get there. So anyways, this comic is supposed to be like, it's not a reboot, but it's kind of like a what if. But this is a what if, like Thor was never Thor, Captain America was never found in the ice. They got villains that are mixed and matched up, like Juggernaut with Doctor Doom, the Doom Juggernaut. And then they got Red Skull mixed with Venom, which is Black Mask. They got a couple other characters like villains and superheroes that are in there. I'm not even quite sure who they're supposed to be. They got this guy like Nighthawk, who's one of the main characters. I think it's supposed to be like Falcon and somebody else. Maybe Batman. I don't even know. Overall, it was a good read. It's all about Blade, and he's the only one that remembers, with the world before then, the Avengers and everything. And he's going to different superheroes and villains, and he's like, hey, I'm looking for Ghost Rider. And Ghost Rider's like, bro, I'm the slowest guy around. I don't know what you're talking about. For an intro comic into the story, it was good. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because it was a hard pass. And then I found out Blade was a villain, so it kind of sold me on it. There is another thing. My local comic book store was also giving these when you bought the comic. And it's not just one card. It's actually I think it's a whole set of these villain covers that are coming out. So make sure you pick up these. I have an open mind, but maybe if I pick up all these covers, I might throw them in each bag, make it look cooler. But they will be worth something, especially those trading cards. They're going like nuts. So that was Heroes Reborn, Marvel #1. Alright, one of my loves of the week. I picked this up, a ballad. What is this? Broken Souls Ballad. And it's by Scout Comics, but it's actually under their Black Caravan image or title. I don't know what you call it. Alright, Broken Souls Ballad. I had heard it's a horror comic, first off, and I'd heard that it was like the deepest, darkest, most horror stuff you've ever heard. It's definitely horror, grotesque, I would say. I'm a big horror fan. Scary, no. The idea behind it, yeah, it's about kids and stuff like that, but it's not even a first for me there either. Anything they were doing to the kids, but it's not anybody. What it's about, it's kind of like a Weapon X. And it sounds like a group of scientists abducted some kids and started experimenting on them. And they, for some reason, let the kids go back home or into the wild, orphanages, that kind of stuff. And now the kids are changing. This right here is this little kid changing into that dog thing. And it's a progression. It goes through the comic where at first it's a slow, like where the dog's taking over his head. And then eventually, I think... I want to say 75%, we do get to see a full version of what the full dog transformation looks like. We do get to see some of the other kids. One of the other kids is like this little story on how his power starts coming out. But it kind of looks like a super villain team origin. I don't know. I really liked it. I thought the story was done well. The art is beautiful. Especially for something that not a lot of people are talking about. If you're into horror with that, superhero, supervillain, if I had to say movies, I'd have to say Brightburn or maybe Glass and that whole franchise with M. Night Shyamalan. What's the first one? Unbreakable. It's something kind of like that, like an origin story. It was really good. All right, Nocterra #3 from Image Comics. I'm digging this series. If you haven't read this yet, you need to. It's not the greatest ever, but for me, I really like it because for me, and stories are great and everything, but one thing I can say that a lot of modern stories fail to grasp is you need to create this world around these characters, this story, there needs to be a lore. For me right now, the lore that Scott Snyder is, which is the writer, um, he's doing it right. He's setting up like that. There's creatures in the world. That there's like this mixture of this shade mixed with all kind of animals and plants. So you see kind of a little versions of everything. This one is not that issue. This is more like a origin story on the brother and sister that are the main characters in the story, on the events right before the big blackout. And the big blackout in this comic is when everything kind of goes to dust. If you haven't read this, I don't want to go too much into it, but the art is just amazing. And I mean, it's the same art, 1, 2, and 3. The story has progressed. It's going in the right direction for me. I want more of the villains, honestly. Like, we get a little bit of them. I think his name is Blacktop Bill. I think he's a really cool villain. I like the idea. I need more of him. I mean, yeah, he shows up and he's got some teeth and he's all black and he looks cool, but I mean, we don't know anything about him. We know he wants these two people that she's trying to protect, but I don't know. I just need more of who he is, what he is. It's not even him by himself. It's like him and like 3 other guys that are with him, and they all kind of look the same. He kind of went into, they did this experiment that changed him like this. I kind of want to know if that's more into that, more. But it was a really good read. I can't say this enough. If you haven't started reading this, you need to. It's a really good comic, especially if you want to get away from the superhero trope that's out there. All right. One of my loves. I end up picking up 2 versions. I'll go with the first one first. This is Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters is the alpha issue. It's technically not a 1 or 2. This is just the prelude to everything. This is a story that's based in the Star Wars mythology between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And yes, it is a direct knockoff of Shadows of the Empire. I think they're taking elements of that and putting this into that. If y'all don't know, it was a major book in the Star Wars franchise that tied events in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It was an awesome book by Steve Perry. They turned it into a comic. They made toys from that book. They also had a Nintendo 64 game. It even had a soundtrack to the book. That's how big a book it was. It was such a great Star Wars read. It was probably like my 3rd Star Wars book I'd ever read. But this basically the story. It's Boba Fett trying to make it back to Jabba with Han Solo and Carbonite after he acquires them in Empire Strikes Back. And it's basically going to be all these other bounty hunters showing up and trying to get that huge bounty that is Han Solo. And basically in this first issue, it's just Boba trekking through space, and he's having problems with the Carbonite, needs to stop off, get it fixed. In the process of him getting fixed, he doesn't have any money, so he needs to take up a job. And he ends up taking up this job, and he ends up in this gladiator fight style. The art's really good. The story progression, everything is pretty good. I can't say the one thing I was really hyped about was this black armor Boba Fett, and the explanation on the black armor was kind of, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't so permanent. So if you're into it for a spec thing, I don't think it's going to be a spec thing because it was like a second of the comic. But it was still cool, how does he do this? How does he move because he's the most known bounty hunter in the galaxy. I mean, everywhere he goes, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Boba Fett is. So it was kind of a cool explanation how he might do some things without taking off the suit. I picked up, this is the director's cut, which I picked it up because supposedly it's going to be really hard to get. They only had 1 copy at my LCS, and I go to a big LCS. So if you do manage to find this, I'd say pick it up. It was only $2 more. I think it was $5.99 versus the $3.99. This was one of the variant covers. Is the action toy, version of the comic. Same comic inside. This one's not because it's director's cut. It's basically the same comic, but at the end of this one, it's got like a black and white version of the comic, like but same comic, and this is just different cover. And I really dig that black Boba Fett Mandalorian armor. It was something kind of cool. Also, on another side note, if you're into Mandalorian, and I mean, this will be tying into the Book of Fett, because this is leading up to those events. So, if you want to stay on the Mando story, right there. One comic, man, I've wanted to get. This was like golden treasure to me. I finally got a copy of ENIAC #1. It's an independent comic by Bad Idea. We do get Bad Idea comics at my LCS, but for some reason they didn't get this that week, and this comic blew up. This #1, bought for $3.99, sells for like $250 raw, not even graded. Now that's maybe an exaggeration, but it's like $100 or something normally. If I put it on there and I put $20, it would sell like that. Was it a great read? Was it worth it? I'd say yeah, and this isn't even first print. It's called the not first print, which is a second print. But I'm fine with that too. I just wanted to read it, see what it's about. It was actually really good. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like this Terminator style. No, it's not like that. It is about a supercomputer, like the government and us, we created this supercomputer, and we didn't think it was going to be so cool, and it turned out to be this like, the most intelligent thing that's ever hit Earth. The art in it was really good. The flow of the story, I could really see it be done in a TV show, because there's so few characters in the comic. I think a total of maybe like 6. There's like 2 main chicks that are tasked to kill this supercomputer that's possibly trying to kill the Earth. All we know is there's this timer that's running down, and they have to beat the timer before the end of everything. Or it might just be one of those Joker bang, gotcha jokes when the timer goes off. We don't know. But that's the whole premise of the comic, is these 2 like special secret, badass chicks that are tasked to destroy this ENIAC computer that, scientists built, and now it's everywhere. It's taking over the world. It's in the internet. And it's kind of cool, because I think it starts out in the 80s or something like that, and even back then it was wrecking havoc, kind of before mainstream internet was a thing. I did pick up #1 and #2, and the #2 is a first print. The second issue was really good as well. It continued the story. It was a really good comic. It's worth if you can get a hold of it, or when it finally gets there in trade paperback, I would say give it a read. It was really good. On spec, if you can get that first print, or you can get this print, it's flipping. When I picked it up, even though they had more copies of this, it was still selling, on eBay for ridiculous prices, because people are still having a problem of getting it. But it was a great read. This is a free comic. This is the Hellfire Galla official guide from Marvel. This is an event that's coming up soon, and it was just a free comic that you could pick up, and it's just got little designs and previews on some of the women that are going to be featured. These comics are always cool because, for one, they're free, and they do have first appearances that are worth money. I haven't looked through this one. I'm not big, and I've kind of stayed away from the X-Men world because that's what this ties into. But it was free, so why not? I picked up Batman Fortnite #2. This is, I think, the B cover. I haven't read it yet, and I haven't opened mine. I have one other copy that I was able to obtain, and this week was ridiculous. The first printing, my comic store had like 40, and nobody was in line. This week, we had people fighting for it, and this time they'd only got 5. They got like 1 of this cover, 1 of the other one, and I think 3 of the other cover, and that was it. I was actually going to grab some of these and sell them, because they're hot, man. They're still selling online for a lot of money, and if y'all don't know, it's just Batman and Fortnite mixed together. The comic is actually a really good read. The first issue was really great. I can't read this one. The reason I haven't is because I'm waiting for a friend, and I've been giving him the code from this one so he doesn't have to buy the comic. but there is a code inside that gets you. The first one gave you a skin. This one, it gives you a different glider, and it's going to be like different accessories. The final code, which I think is 5 codes, is going to give you a very different version of a Batman skin that you can only get from these comics. So players in that Fortnite realm that have that, it's going to be a more sought out thing. It's going to be a hard to get costume because you have to buy these comics. I can't do a review because I haven't read it. I did hear good things about it, and the first issue was really good, so I don't doubt. This is going to be my worst comic of the week, was Suicide Squad. I can't tell you how much I would skip this issue because nothing really happens. I didn't read the first 2 issues of Suicide Squad, and the only reason I picked up this Suicide Squad was because it ties in with Teen Titans. And specifically with this character right here, this is the new version of a younger Flash. Her name is Bolt. She's really cool because she's a paraplegic. She's missing both her legs, I think. And she uses kind of those like springboard, like metal replacement legs. And it's kind of cool to see a speedster with no legs. You know, I mean, how cool is that? I'm digging her name, Bolt. You know, she didn't have it at the beginning and she picks it up as she goes. Teen Titan Academy, and they're trying to do this whole, you know, new version of Teen Titans, and the big thing is their, what is his name? The Red X is like a character from Teen Titans Go that they're carrying over to the comics. His first appearance was in Future State, and they're kind of getting to the reveal. Everybody keeps hinting they know who he possibly is. I've read this comic and I have no idea who he is. I keep trying to think of old Titans, old bad guys. I don't. They don't show enough. I think they've shown like skin from his arm, and that's about it. I have no idea who this guy is. But the reason I say this is skip it. The only parts of this book that I really like were the Suicide Squad parts, and it's kind of lame because for me, it just felt like ties into the Suicide Squad movie with Peacemaker, which, no doubt, I mean, I love John Cena. I'm ready for him. I'm so excited for the Suicide Squad movie. I'm excited for the Peacemaker show. Anything DC, I get excited for. You know, their mainstream movies, they're not as good yet, but all their other media, it's fire. You know, their CW shows, people shy away from those, man. Arrow, Flash, they were all still good shows, you know. I mean, I think Batwoman's my least favorite because I'm a big Batman fan, and Batwoman's one of my newer favorite characters of recent years. But the shows have always been good. The animated, everything like that, especially their animated universe. If you haven't checked out any DC animated movies in the past 15 years, you're missing out. But anyways, this is just the Suicide Squad trying to recruit or kidnap Bolt to... It seemed like they were going to recruit her into the team, but that's not where this... It didn't feel like that. They're trying to, you know, kidnap her for some other reason. It all ends up failing. They don't end up doing it. The reason why I say I hated this comic was it's just another thing that Disney's doing. This... Are they going to reveal the Red X in this issue? And at the very last page, we get Red X, and he's standing there. And guess what? It's not a reveal. The first 2 issues of Teen Titan Academy, we thought we were going to get no reveal. It's going to be this thing that they pan out forever. And they did it on WandaVision. Who was the friend? Is it going to be Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four? Who's the bad guy? Is it going to be Mephisto? You know, yeah. And then it turns out to be somebody lame. They're doing the same thing in this, and I kind of have a feeling that when they finally do reveal Red X, it's going to be this lame character that we kind of like, oh yeah, but I don't know. I still am reading Teen Titans Academy, and I'm reading Suicide Squad. I didn't read the first 2 issues. I passed over them, but I'm kind of glad now. I am going to go back and read them to get caught up with this, because they're doing this big crossover event. But, yeah, so those are my picks. Those were my pickups from this week. That was everything that I picked up. I mean, give me your thoughts about what you know, if you read any of these, or, and I am being kind of harsh on the Suicide Squad. You know, I mean, it had some good art. And no, I'm not. It was trash. But if you did watch this whole video, thanks. You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. But thanks for being here and thanks for watching. Thanks for making it through the whole thing.